Hi, I'm Ryan Penny, and welcome to The Catholic Sphere. Today's topic is witnessing to the beauty of the truth on social media, known for its proclivity for toxicity and animosity towards truth, but where our expert panelists today have entered fearlessly like the special forces. We have with us Amber Rose from The Religious Hippie on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and more. She's joining us from Illinois. Tanner Kalina, a speaker, writer, actor, and social media influencer who is the star of EWTN's new web series, James the Less. Tanner joins us from Colorado, and we're also joined today by Kevin Rorty, founder of Soka, and whose Instagram account with his inspirational reels have grown a sizable following. Kevin is also joining us today from Colorado. Each of these new evangelists are on the front lines, blazing a trail for truth in the digital realm. Amber, Tanner, and Kevin, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Ryan. What's up?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, so Amber, let's start with you. So many Catholic social media influencers take to social media at the start in order to evangelize. But even though you now have more than 250,000 followers across all your platforms, after only 3 years of your ministry online, you didn't start with that in mind at all. Can you tell us how your faith initially brought you to use social media in a new way and how that organically developed into what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. So originally, when I was coming back into my faith, I was really looking for other young adults who were talking about their experience coming back into the faith, the hardships, what it was like, resources and things that they really found important in their own journey. And I almost found none. I really couldn't find any young adults who were willing to talk about their own story. And so originally, I didn't really come into it thinking, oh, I'm going to do this to evangelize and to start stuff. But I ended up doing it because I needed that, and I realized other people probably needed that as well. And so I decided to become that, for other people. But it really, it was interesting because it really helped my own faith life as well. Because as the social media grew, as I became bigger platforms and stuff, I started realizing that there was a lot I didn't know. And when people asked me questions, I was able to then go and research it for them. And then I learned more on my own. So it was definitely it was a rocky start, but it became something really big, and I'm very grateful.
Amazing. And obviously you were filling this need, a need that you recognized in yourself first, and you recognized that there are thousands of young people all over the world who are in desperate need for solid answers about the faith that they're not getting in real life, and community. So it's amazing that you're able to find that need and help to make it grow on social media.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Tanner, you are the recent star of EWTN's new romantic comedy web series, James the Less. But you certainly have not always been using your talents with any intention to spread the faith. Originally, your talent brought you to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, with a fair amount of worldly success. How did you get there? And how did you get to where you are now?
So I grew up, I was 5 years old, and I was obsessed with Jim Carrey, and I memorized all the lines in all of his films. And I remember writing him a letter telling him how big of a fan I was, and he sent me back a headshot a few months later and a sign, and he said, "Thank you very much, Jim Carrey." And so from a very early age, I wanted to be a professional comedian, and my mom fostered that in me. She saw a kind of a proclivity to entertain and perform. From an early age, loved acting, and when I was in college, I studied film at the University of Texas in Austin, Hook'em, and I got involved in the improv scene there, started doing stand-up, doing gigs, and I booked a film that was kind of like a highly anticipated comedy for the upcoming year while I was out in Austin, and that opened up a lot of doors for me in Los Angeles. And when I was out there, got the agent, the big comedy guy who represented all the a lot of the people on Saturday Night Live, and he told me, in 3 years, Tanner, you're going to be on SNL on Saturday Night Live. In 5 years, you're going to be a regular in studio comedies. You're my guy. You're set. And so, yeah, I spent numerous years out in Los Angeles doing the comedy grind, doing some independent films, and just kind of in that coming up more and more dissatisfied with worldly success, the perennial carrot that dangles in front of your face. I found that it's a chase that you can always run, and as soon as you grab a carrot, another carrot will slide right in. And so, yeah, that kind of led me to just a deeper version and wanting to give everything over to the Lord.
Amazing, Tanner. Yeah, I amazing what you said about Jim Carrey. My my love for theater that I got to when I got older was also in part due to Jim Carrey. It's amazing how God can use our interests as children to bring us into what He's ultimately calling us to, and you've certainly done amazing work for the kingdom through storytelling and your social media work. And so, thank you, Kevin. Like Amber and Tanner, you've also been a Catholic since childhood, but didn't really claim the faith as your own until several years later. How did the events and lessons of your conversion lead to the call that you have answered to engage in your ministry today?
Yeah, well, like many Catholics who are born Catholic these days, I nearly fell away from the faith, living a very wayward lifestyle, and I tasted the shallowness of modern living, that I was living for really nothing. And I was sort of forced to be on this retreat to go to confirmation. And I had this experience where I realized that God was a living God in my soul. And I was at a juncture in my life, and I had to choose which direction I was going to go, shallowness or depth. And I ended up speaking with the priest who introduced me to the practice of daily mental prayer or meditation, where we converse with Christ in our soul. And by doing that every day, I realized this experience of the living God was something that my soul thirsted for, and it changed everything for me. I ended up going to religious life in France, and then I discerned I didn't have a call to that, but learned a lot about the contemplative wisdom of the church, and that then led me to discern I had a call to evangelize. So I was a focused missionary for college students for some time, and then that all boiled up to what we do in SOCA.
Amazing, Kevin. And in SOCA, you are teaching people all over the country about some of the wisdom in this Catholic mystical tradition that you learned that changed your life, and recognizing that this is something that we all desperately need, and you're doing that through your social media. Each of you were doing this in social media in your own unique way, which is what it's so amazing to have all of you on at the same time. So circling back to you, Amber, many of your reels follow popular social media trends like reaction videos and reusing and lip syncing over audio sound bites and things like that. But you were one of the first really young Catholics to put a Catholic spin on these trends, and to great success on TikTok, even before it was TikTok, and then Instagram, YouTube, and other platforms. Why do you think young people in particular gravitate towards these kinds of reels? And what have you observed about the impact that the christenizing, if you will, of these trends has on your audience?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because personally for me, when I was seeing these trends go around, I was like, someone could really put like a Christian twist on this and make it really popular, and we could reach hundreds, thousands, millions of people with, the gospel if we had just applied, our own Christian, ideas to these reels and things. I also noticed that our generation these days, the younger ones especially, have a really bad attention span. They're usually really good for like a couple seconds, but then after that they lose interest in things unless it really grabs their attention. And so reels are one of those ways that it can grasp somebody and give you a lot of information in a very small amount of time. And also, it gave me the opportunity to put out there, a lot of Catholic truths. But then people would be like, oh, we want longer versions. And that's why I started my YouTube channel. But the TikToks and the shorter reels really introduced them into Catholicism. And then they would start asking more questions like, what about this? What about that? And that opened the doorway for great conversations. A lot of the times in reels too, if you can't fit everything into, like, let's say it's a 7-second reel, you can then put it in the description below and you can explain a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of ways to reach the youth, and short form videos are one of the best ways. It really grasps their attention.
Yes, thanks to many an Instagram reel, including yours. I would think for many young people, they could say that seeing a clip of Michael Scott from The Office was used as the doorway into the Catholic faith for them. So this kind of creativity is obviously being used to much good on social media. So it's amazing stuff. Tanner, with your acting pursuits, they've led you from Hollywood now to EWTN to star in EWTN's first romantic comedy, a web series that debuted exclusively on our YouTube channel, and which has been extremely popular with our audience, only demanding that we make more, which we are, by the way. Recap for us about what James the Less is about, and why do you think it's been so popular?
It's been an honor working on James the Less. To recap, James the Less is the story of a young college grad, a guy right out of college who is just looking for a job. He's been kind of canceled by culture because of a tweet he had that went public and viral. And he stumbles his way into a church, super desperate for a job, and becomes a janitor. And while he's there, through the wise kind of mentorship of the pastor there, and through, of course, a love interest, many a man has come to the faith through a beautiful woman. And through kind of these two figures, he starts to encounter Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament in the Eucharist. And so it's just been awesome seeing the audience's reaction. I think my cast and crew did a great job. Steve Beaumont did an awesome job directing, and I'm just super honored to be a part of the project.
Yeah, Tanner, it's been amazing to see that obviously James the Less is meeting a need of Catholic fiction and storytelling, and you've helped to bring it to life. So it's been an honor to get to watch this unfold here, and I think I can join everyone in saying that we're very much looking forward to what you and the rest of the cast and crew are going to be bringing us with James the Less in the near future. So thank you. And Kevin, shifting gears again to these reels on Instagram, there's an ocean of self-help, motivational videos on social media. And it seems that you've stepped into this space, but with a deeper message that has been received extremely well by your followers and those who have discovered your account. What are you trying to accomplish with these videos, and what do you see as the main impact that they've had on your followers?
Well, I think it all originates with the deeper why behind our ministry, which is really the mission of the church. The church exists for the salvation of souls. That's the first law of everything. And many souls are being lost today. And more particularly, for every individual who comes into the church, over 6 leave. So we're dealing with an epidemic of souls leaving the church. And the church is getting smaller. Many young people are leaving. And we're going to be left with a sort of remnant in the church. And that remnant is going to be very weak if we continue with a watered-down, lukewarm presentation of the faith and lukewarm formation, where there's not really this eternal existential call. And so many people have been fed that. And Soka's mission is to really get to the heart of what leads to salvation, which is the one thing necessary, the divine life dwelling in our souls, coming to know Christ. And the saints say the forgotten key in our modern world is daily mental prayer, spending time conversing with Christ and aiming for mystical heights with him in our souls. And so Soka tries to help people commit to this daily time of mental prayer. And these videos act as sort of a way to catch their attention of thinking about why this would be important from many different angles of, hey, are you feeling restless? Are you anxious? Are you fed up with the modern world? Do you see the shallowness taking that, identifying that problem deep in their soul, and then bringing them to, well, what you need is mental prayer. You can go to our site. We have many resources, not just on meditation, but a 12-step path to take them to learn about meditation, get accountability with it, and then advance to contemplation. And so it's all a part of that mission.
Amazing. So that this mental prayers you're talking about can be an antidote to many of the anxieties and problems that young people especially are facing, and in large part due to and encouraged by their use of social media. It's like you're stepping into it and giving them the real answer, this union, this friendship with Christ. And obviously it's a message that's resonating with thousands. So now let's talk about what each of you with your different platforms have to respond to on a daily basis, the social aspect of social media. Your intention with your audience and followers, first in the comm boxes, but then in the DMs and the private messages. Can each of you address what your experience has been like and what have made up some of your most meaningful interactions? Let's start with you, Amber.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute fantastic experience. I mean, everyone's going to get some hate here and there, but the most meaningful experiences are those who have told me that they have come into the church or have come back to the church because of a video, or I explained something that they misunderstood their whole life, whether that's papal infallibility or purgatory or something along those lines. There's so much that we are not, that we're poorly catechized about. You know, I was poorly catechized too. And so when I learned these things and I realized it all made sense, it totally opened up a whole new doorway for me and the faith. And so I wanted to do that for other people, and people have emailed me, they've DM'd me. A lot of them ask questions in, you know, their own life, like, what should I do in this situation? But the most meaningful ones really are those people who tell me, you know, I came back into the church or I converted to the faith because what you were saying made so much sense, and I had to look into Catholicism. And, you know, and there are some people who fought me on Catholicism for the last 2 years and just came into the church actually this Easter. And so even people who are ridiculing you, sometimes it comes from a deeper, you know, they're feeling a little bit, I guess, what's the word? Convicted. You know, they feel convicted. And so because of that, they feel like they can't come into the faith. But as you introduce them to truth more, they start softening a bit and they're more open to it. So those are probably my most meaningful experiences, for sure.
Beautiful to hear about the real world impact that your ministry is having on social media. This isn't just people being entertained, as is most of social media, but you're actually helping to change people's lives, and God is using your ministry to bring souls closer to Him in the church. So praise God. That's just so fantastic.
Thank you.
So Tanner, tell us about some of the most meaningful interactions that you've had with your followers.
So, gosh, with social media, it's such a love-hate relationship. It's such a push and pull, and you got to make sure that you have like respectable boundaries around it. It's easy for me to kind of be like, I want to get the truth out there. Is this really doing anything? But then I go back to my own story and just kind of remembering that just something I heard in a video one time really kind of convicted me to change something in my life, which opened my heart to more grace that the Lord wanted to pour out. And so truth always has an impact, and I stand by that. And but I do believe that like evangelization is most effective in personal relationship. And so if anyone ever direct messages me, I try and respond. Comments, I mean, a lot of people are just trying to start holy wars in my comments. But if someone has like a genuine question, I get a lot of kind of like people seeking advice for some reason in my messages. I do try and be intentional in those responses. And there's this one guy, he's become a homie. He's out, he's in service right now overseas, but you know, he's kind of like, he shared with me a voice memo in our messages the other day that, like through my videos and just kind of through dialogue with me, he's had the like courage to go back to confession and like start to go back to mass again. And like, he's like starting to feel a flame for the faith again. And like, that's all the Lord's doing. I can only like speak truth, but St. Paul talks about this, like throwing the seed out and letting the Lord do his thing. And so for me, like that's what social media is just a chance to just like scatter wide seed and let the Lord do his thing.
Yes, what you're doing, what all three of you are doing is bearing witness to the truth of like what you just said, Tanner, of like truth will always have an impact. We just have to trust in our Lord that he knows what he's doing, and you can just sit back and watch the wonders that he's going to work in people's lives if we're just faithful. And so with you too, Kevin, you have someone manage your account so that you don't have to spend a lot of personal time on social media, but you do still take time, as you told me, to respond to the comments and to the direct messages from your followers and your audience. What have been some of the highlights of that experience for you?
Yeah, so through a lot of things with regard to social media, we're now able to help about 1,000 souls commit to mental prayer a year, which is incredible for us, having started as just this on-the-ground mission with kind of my inner circle. I mean, reaching 1,000 people to help them commit to prayer a year is mind-blowing. But from there, then we can let them know about, for example, a young adult conference we have that Amber actually came to speak at last year. And we have a couple hundred young adults come to that, and some of them hear about it through our Instagram. And so we're seeing some fruits, of marriages and then godparents of each other to vocations and things of that nature. And one story, just real briefly, comes to mind. I had a young man reach out to me maybe 3 years ago, and he was just starting college. And he said, hey, I really want to develop a rule of life and mental prayer. I'm also discerning a vocation. I was wondering if we could jump on a call at some point. And this was still the early days of Soka, but I just had a sense that God was calling me to really give time to this individual. So we hopped on a call. I don't remember all the contents of it, but I'm sure it was something along the lines of, here's the interior path, so to speak. And anyway, fast forward, just maybe 3 weeks ago, he emailed me and he let me know that he's applied and been accepted to enter a religious order this fall. And so to hear stuff like that, where certainly I can't take the credit for that, nor can Soka take the credit. It's all God's grace. But to think maybe we had a role to play in that, to help him set up a spiritual life and have encouragement in terms of knowing that we are called for an eternal purpose. It's really humbling and a huge honor, and that's what inspires us to keep going.
Wow, that's amazing. Inspiring souls to sacrifice everything for our Lord can start just with this simple conversation of being available and being present to them. As we've said a few times in the show so far, social media can't replace those personal encounters and interactions that we have with people, and we see that the effect that it has, which is amazing. So Amber, you said that you accidentally became an influencer. It wasn't like you asked for this. What is your advice to other up-and-coming Catholic influencers?
My biggest advice would be to discern, really discern, because this is not for everybody. I mean, we always get those people who hop on social media and they're just like, being an influencer is so easy, it's just posting videos and this. But no, it's so much more. You are cultivating the consciousness of, you're cultivating minds, and you're spreading Catholicism, and you really have to make sure that that is what God's calling you to, because just like in everything, we might want something, but God knows it's not good for us. For the ministry, I knew that it's what God wanted because he kept opening the doors for it. And it's not necessarily something I would have picked. It's not something I sought out or I wanted to specifically do. I remember praying about it quite a lot because I struggled with pride a lot. And I knew that social media fed that, it fed that vice and that sin. So for me, getting on social media was like completely contradictory to what I was supposed to be doing, which was practicing humility and things like that. And after praying for it for a while, and just trying to figure out what does God want me to do, I realized he's calling me to go above and beyond and to overcome pride, not just like push it down and try to ignore it. And so it's been this huge journey of, overcoming those issues. But when people want to start on social media, please discern it. Don't just assume that it's for you because you want to do it. I think it's great if people want to do it and want to share their faith online. but it takes a lot of work. You really have to be careful about how you respond to people. You have to make sure that you are staying humble and you have a spirit director to keep you accountable and friends that are willing to tell you when, maybe you said something online that isn't in line with church teaching or the way that Jesus would respond and stuff like that. Because I think we get a really bad rap on social media because we get into a lot of internet fights. And something that people have told me is I'm unique because I don't engage in any internet fights. I just ignore them. Really need to discern what kind of person you are and if that's something that is for you or not. And just keep praying about it, because I know that God gave me this ministry, and if he were to take it away the next day, I'd be like, okay, it's up to you. Like, it's your ministry. I'm simply just a tool, in God's hands. This is all because of him. It has nothing to do with me. But you really have to know that it's God's will and not your own.
So the word that you kept on repeating there, Amber, was this word discernment, and how absolutely crucial that is when it comes to social media and using it and potentially even being an influencer. We have to have discernment. Is this actually God's will? Is this what he's actually calling us to? So Tanner, we have about a minute and a half left in the show. I want to end with you. What is your theory behind social media and what Catholics can accomplish through it?
So Monsignor Shea, in his book From Christendom to Apostolic Age, he talks about kind of this cultural norms that we breathe in. It's just in the climate that we breathe in. You innately know not to do something or do something in public because of just the way you've been formed by your culture. And I do believe that by infiltrating social media, I kind of view social media as like the eighth continent. It's a place where people gather. It's a place where people dwell. And by infiltrating it with truth, goodness, and beauty, then you can start to shift the kind of cultural climate, the air that people breathe in, by normalizing the truth and the fullness of the truth in the Catholic faith. Then that can start to infiltrate society, and that can start to become the norm.
Very well said. It's a huge responsibility, and it's a responsibility that each of you are shouldering extremely well, and you are great role models for the rest of us out there. This is incredibly important work because of the effect, the impact that it's capable of having. Thank you so much again, Amber, Tanner, and Kevin, for joining us today. We are looking forward to another episode with all three of you in the very near future. And thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to join us next week with host Father Joseph Mary Wolf right here on The Catholic Sphere.